Hello, I'm Isabel Smith and I play Frankie Osborne on Hollyoaks. For the last year, Hollyoaks has explored the issue of sibling sexual abuse between Frankie and her abuser, twin brother JJ. Hollyoaks hopes to shine a light on unheard stories. Today we'll meet with real-life survivors of this form of abuse, as well as a SARS's charity representative, and ask them why we should be talking about this issue. 2 of our survivors will remain anonymous. Their names have been changed and they will be voiced by actors.
I just remember being scared. I remember changing.
We have to be comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations. Those that are saying this storyline's awful, the amount of survivors saying, look, if I had have known this 20 years ago, my life would have been different.
It's called The Last Taboo because it's so complex and there's so many people that don't want it spoken about.
The most important thing for me is being true about where I've come from now and not being ashamed and not feeling that it's my dirty secret.
I got signed.
Yes, you did. Of course you did. Well done, you.
Oh, darling, I'm so glad you're home. Oh, isn't this great news?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name's Tanith McCulloch. I'm the Sibling Sexual Abuse Project Officer for SARSAS and I'm a counsellor.
Thank you for coming in, it's lovely to
for
meet
meeting
you. What can charities like SARSIS do to offer survivors of sibling sexual abuse support?
Well, we have our own dedicated project to adult survivors, created by adult survivors for adult survivors in order to support people.
So you'll celebrate with me?
Yeah, tomorrow's Scouse Pizza.
No. Celebrate like how we used to. By playing school discos.
We stopped playing that years ago.
But we can start again. When I first heard about the storyline, I feel like the first thing is kind of shock, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I really wanted to ask you. Why do you think it's a frowned upon subject to talk about, and like why you don't really hear so much about it?
Sibling sexual abuse is a form of childhood sexual abuse, but it needs to be recognised as its own distinct form. If, for example, a child is experiencing childhood sexual abuse, it's usually from an adult.
Yeah.
The family get behind that child, know that it's wrong and support that child. Whenever it's siblings, that brings a whole different dynamic. And for example, the case of Frankie and JJ, that's not normal. That is significant abuse and that has lifelong impacts.
I'm a survivor of sibling sexual abuse and I was abused when I was 8 years old by my brother Andrew, who is 8 years older than me. This was back in the 1970s and I've lived with that all my life until about 4 years ago when things hit the floor really hard and I ended up seeking justice through the courts, achieved a level of justice and decided that was the time to waive my anonymity and speak out.
It started when I was about 11. The perpetrator was my older brother, who is a few years older than me.
What's the age difference?
3 years.
Right.
We'd never been close. He was the firstborn, and I think that he resented me from the moment that I came along.
I think what people generally don't understand is it can happen in a busy home. Ours was a busy home and it happened whenever he had the opportunity. So mine started when I was about age 7. It went on for about 9 years.
God.
Although there was not a very large age gap between the two of us, 3.5 years. It went on until I left home when I was 16.
The consequences of that abuse have affected me my whole life.
You carry it with you forever.
We work with so many survivors that have been silenced for 50, 60 years, and it's only through disclosure do they say that they feel like they're living again.
From being 8, you didn't feel you could say anything until 4 years ago. So you've had to live with that.
I think you have to put your mind into the mind of a child. A 7, 8-year-old child doesn't know anything about anything. You're living your life in your family, in your safe space.
I think the reason that I didn't speak out then was that I feared not being believed. I feared not being believed, but the abuse persisting and perhaps getting worse. And the fear of what would happen.
So outside appearances, we were the perfect Catholic family, you know, and that's what my parents wanted to present. I didn't feel that I could speak to my parents. I thought I was going to get into trouble.
My house should have been somewhere that I was absolutely safe and comfortable.
But what we think is, and we're told by the perpetrator, is that if you tell, the family will be broken. But that is not true. It's not us telling that breaks the family. The perpetrator broke the family the minute they touched their victim.
I want to talk to you.
After what you did to me, stay away.
It was just a game, and you wanted it last night.
You know that's not true.
But you're drunk again. So not surprised if you can't remember.
I am gonna tell everyone what you did.
And who are you gonna tell? No more lies, Frankie. You're not gonna do anything stupid, are you?
It's interesting watching the story with Frankie and JJ play out. The way that JJ tells lies and builds a narrative to discredit Frankie was exactly my experience.
I don't relate to Frankie because I was a lot younger, but I do relate to the complex family relationships, this love-hate thing.
It robbed me of being able to know what unconditional love feels like, because I never trusted that he would look after me. Because it's really ridiculous, the lies they tell you. As an adult, you can see they're contradictory. On one hand, they'll say, oh, nobody will believe you. And then on the other hand, Dad will have a heart attack. Well, as an adult, you can see they can't both be true. But as a child, I just believed everything he told me.
Why do you think there's such a time gap about when it's happened, the crime, to them reporting it?
People will process it in their own way, and some have a lot of love for their sibling and don't want the sibling to be carted off to jail or the family ripped apart. It is so different for each person and each individual situation.
There are ramifications of reporting it, but at the same time, reporting it ultimately is incredibly freeing. You're no longer trapped.
The earlier you disclose and get help, the more chance of having a happy life.
So when my brother was finally confronted, he wrote this kind of confessional, half watered down story to try and save his own neck. And he said, oh, if only Liz had told our parents, then I would have stopped sooner. So that's basically blaming me for not stopping him.
My stepmom said, can't you put it behind you? She said, well, how about if he writes you a letter? And it started off really good. The first page was, I apologise, really wish I could change things. It sounded really great. I turned over and the next page it said, I'm really sorry because I've lost my family. And I really thought, he has no idea of the damage he's caused me.
The process for me was scary. I felt sick, physically sick. I made the decision one evening and I thought to myself, what should I do? Should I just jump in the car and drive down to my local police station?
Yeah, I mean...
And I thought that they're not going to have anybody there who can deal with this. So I thought I would go online and report it via their portal. Within half an hour, I did have a police officer on the phone.
When I reported it, the first thing the police officer said, first thing I'm going to say to you is that I believe you. And the second thing I'm going to say is, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. And you can't imagine what that felt like.
I just wanted him to understand, and I thought, well, the only course of action I've got left is to go to court.
It was probably 9 months before a decision was made by the police that it was not in the interest of justice to pursue my case.
Wow.
Which was crushing.
He was arrested and charged on summary charges, so they can't count how many times he's abused me over 10 years. So it's called summary charges. It went to court. It was a 2-week trial, and he was found not guilty on all counts. So I'm now talking to you today, where I have to be anonymous and I can't say my real name. And that is really hard for a survivor.
So can I just ask, did he go?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, that's why we're here, because
Right.
there was a trial at Bristol Crown Court and he pleaded guilty before the trial to a total of 10 counts of various types of indecent assault. The trial was basically on 2 counts of rape. He was found not guilty, which was devastating. The single count of rape, there was a hung jury. The jury absolutely couldn't decide. So I was offered the opportunity of a retrial. I thought, I can't put my family through waiting another year. I can't sit in the darkness for another year, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I need to get on with this. I didn't get full justice, but I did get some justice, which has allowed me to waive my anonymity.
Whilst it took me some time to come to terms with the fact that I hadn't had justice, I have healed far more since I spoke out. It kind of doesn't matter whether someone believes me. I know what happened. I've forgiven myself, and actually that's quite hard.
This became more important than sending my brother to jail, because that's what I was absolutely thought. The only way I'm going to sleep at night now is for him to go to jail. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's people like you being interested and talking, people like Hollyoaks, survivors that contact you and say, God, I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
I thought I was alone. You could have been talking about my story.
To any survivor out there or victim who is still being abused, the earlier you disclose and get help, the more chance you've got of having a happy life.
If I can give any advice to anyone, to professionals, to societies, to families, be curious, ask the questions, know that it does happen, and be there and be prepared and be ready to intervene and support. For a survivor that has experienced it, just know that you'll be listened to, you'll be believed.
Just tell me.
JJ is sexually abusing me.
Why do you think it's so important for Hollyoaks to be telling this story right now?
From my experience, Hollyoaks has always been at the forefront of bringing real life into TV drama performance. Sibling sexual abuse is hidden.
Yeah.
It's not spoken about. The victims don't want to talk about it. The perpetrators aren't going to talk about it. The parents don't want to see it. Parents don't want to acknowledge it, even if they know that something isn't right. And so I think it's really important that as many people can see the story being told in a way that actually might encourage them to tell their story.
I just want it to stop. I just want you to make it stop. I want you to make him stop. That's all I want.
So the big thing about sibling sexual abuse is whether we tell today, tomorrow, or 20 years or 40 years, what happens is a rupture. Because generally, it's like you're portraying your character. Yeah. The parents take different sides and it breaks the family. And I think parents need to understand it's not their fault.
If something doesn't look or feel right, you're probably right, you are right. Do not ignore it, because what you are doing potentially is sentencing the victim to become like me, potentially, by not acknowledging it. And yes, it could potentially blow your family apart, but ultimately that's what will happen down the line,
Absolutely,
potentially. Or it
yeah.
means that the person who's not responsible for this is the one that has to leave. They're the one that takes the blame and takes the shame.
No, because he can't know that I've said anything.
What advice would you give to families that are going through sibling sexual abuse?
Listen, believe and support. As difficult as it may be to understand that this happens, ask questions. Don't interrogate, but be aware that it can happen. Be there to support and intervene, and know that there are services out there.
Hey. You were incredibly brave yesterday, right? You did the right thing telling me.
Did I?
Of course you did.
I feel freer than I've ever felt in my life, that I now live an absolutely truthful, honest, open, authentic life that I would never have known if I hadn't gone to the police.
There's a whole network of survivors now.
They're not alone.
They're not alone. There's a survivor network that's growing.
It's raising that awareness and creating an environment where you can have an open dialogue with your children, where they're not afraid to come and speak to you.
One thing that always sticks with me, a mentor once said to me in 2000, there was no such thing as child exploitation. Look at it now. In 5-10 years' time, the world will recognise that sibling sexual abuse is an issue. People will know where to go to get help and support, and that's the main thing.
A lot of good work will be done from the words you've just given us and your experience, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to meet you.
It's been amazing to have you and everyone at the charity supporting us and really helping us with the research.
It has just been such a privilege to be a part of this, and the amount of survivors coming forward, so you have really done it justice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. For help and support on sibling sexual abuse, or to find out more, head to channel4.com/support-Hollyoaks.